Hello there, how are you? Had a good week? Lyrin Haddock here with a slightly modified worth the buy. This week it's more of a worth the watch, or a whoa, hear me out. This week we're looking into a comic book movie that turns 30 years old this year. This is a film that is often roundly mocked, especially following the much better adaptation released years later. But is it truly that bad? Well, let's grab a lawgiver, put on our helmets, and remember that I am the law! And let's dive in to Judge Dredd. Okay, so before we start anything, I know there's a lot of hate for this film. From die-hard Dredd comic fans to your everyday moviegoer. But part of me does feel, nowadays in particular, that a lot of the hate on the film comes from people who've either never seen it, and then they parrot things they've seen said about it online, either from YouTube reviews or retrospective videos. Now, there's a reason I'm saying this film is worth the watch, and it's something people often forget. Judge Dredd walked so Dredd could run. People often shit on this film for what it became, especially compared to what the original vision of the director was, but at the end of the day, if it wasn't for this film and the complaints that it could have done better, we would never have ended up with Dredd all those years later. For some reason, this DVD of Judge Dredd, the actual on-screen image is a tiny box, and you'll likely need to fidget with your picture settings of your player to get it right. Thing is, when you do get it right with zoom or similar, the image quality doesn't seem to change, which just makes the situation stranger. So Judge Dredd follows the eponymous lawman in Mega City 1 dispensing justice ruthlessly. His belief in the law is broken though when he's charged for a crime he didn't commit, leading us to the true story in this depiction of Judge Dredd, finding his way back to Mega City 1 to prove his innocence and bring justice to those who have perverted it. That's the Cliff Notes version of the story, because there's also multiple side little storylines that do bloat this film out a bit. Cloning, his backstory, a love interest, you get the drill. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, it really means a lot to me and it really helps the channel out and helps spread some love for some underrated gems.
I knew you'd say that.
This is one of the negatives with this film. It tries to cram just so much into its runtime, it loses itself in its own crisscrossing of stories. It's not just me thinking this either. John Wagner, the creator of Judge Dredd, said as much to Total Film magazine, saying it told the wrong story because it tried too much. I think this is what's the truest shame of this film. It had the potential to be great. Saying that, the film looks great. The sets in particular are often huge and look amazing. Its opening alone, introducing us to the world we're about to enter, is still a spectacle to behold even today. The reveal of Mega City 1 is immense and probably looked great on the big screen. Along with the large sets, it's also everything that fills those sets, whether it's the custom-built vehicles, including the City Cab being based on the Land Rover 101 Forward Control, which is a light British military truck, or the costuming from Versace. The amazing thing is that they look good and fit so well together in this world that we're in. Another thing that can't really be knocked is the costume design. The size of the shoulder pads and helmets, whilst looking at times ridiculous, actually really give it that comic book vibe. And I'm not talking like Burton-esque Batman, more Judge Dredd. Considering the costume design was done by Gianni Versace and went through multiple iterations before the final design was nailed down, I mean, I'd say it's not bad. It fits the style and the tone of the film really well. There's also the fact that it does look like Judge Dredd has just been down to Affleck's palace and bought himself some new rocks. There were also some really great choices within the cast. I mean, physically, Sylvester Stallone is a great call for the man-mountain that is Judge Dredd. And unfortunately, from what can be found online, it does seem that Stallone's involvement in this film is also the reason why it had so many changes from its original script and director's vision.
Also, who's this law feller y'all talking about?
I am the law!
I'm not law.
I am the law! When you're all alone in the dark, the only thing that counts is this. The law.
Let's not forget Rob Schneider as Fergie, the low-level hacker who brings us into Mega City 1. Now, I'm not as hateful towards Rob Schneider as others are. He isn't the greatest actor, but he isn't the worst. He's just there. But I get the hate, particularly with his laugh in this film.
We can't just knock on the wall and say, "Hello, cursed earth pizza." Did wearing that helmet all those years compress your brain? You're gonna get me killed!
There's a maniac loose in the city!
What a coincidence! There's one out here, too!
Oh.
In his defense, though, how many people have pulled this to Stallone's face?
I am the law. Can't.
The stunning and talented Diane Lane as Judge Hershey, Dredd's love interest stroke person trying to break down his walls.
I repeat my objection to this video being allowed as evidence in this case. Dredd, that's twice you owe me.
Max von Sydow as Chief Justice Fargo, with a screen presence and an amazing voice, his choice for the father figure to Stallone's Dredd adds an extra level of panache whenever he's on screen.
You may stand at ease, Joseph. You were my finest student. So, I've drawn a new assignment for you. Starting tomorrow, you're going to spend 2 days a week at the academy.
I'd be honest, sir. Unarmed combat or marksmanship?
Ethics.
And finally, rounding out our main cast, we've got the antagonist to Dredd, Rico, played with a delightful campiness by Armand Asante, who mimicked Stallone's speech pattern and, I will admit, inadvertently hilarious.
Well, he's about to be seriously outnumbered. Right, Central?
You betray the law!
Law! I betrayed this!
The thing I noticed watching this back after many years is that yes, the main cast is filled with well-known actors at the time, but the side characters are where some absolute pearls are to be found. You've got members of the cannibalistic Angel family, played by a couple of gems. Firstly, we've got Junior Angel, played by Ewan Bremner. You may not recognise the name, but you'll know the face. He's Spud from Trainspotting, was also in Black Hawk Down, and even showed up in Wonder Woman. And this came before them all.
My youngest, Junior. Howdy.
Hey!
His brother Link Angel, played by musician Phil Smeaton of the band Magic Car, and also appeared in the British TV series Sharp, starring Sean Bean, where he doesn't actually die.
There's Link, my oldest. Stop me.
Their modified brother, Mean Machine Angel, played by Christopher Adamson, who has played minor roles from being an airport cop in The Fifth Element to being Jimmy Legs, a member of the Dutchman crew in 2 of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Got 3 strikes, lawman. Stop one. Act 2.
Strike 3.
The patriarch of the Angel family, Pa Angel, an actor I adore, having watched him as Herschel in The Walking Dead, the late, great Scott Wilson.
By a blast of God they perish, and by a breath of his nostrils are they consumed. Hallelujah!
There's also a couple of other surprises in there too, whether it's another musician in Ian Jury playing Giga.
Hey, wait a second! Don't touch it.
What is that?
Well, it's a lawgiver. That's programmed to only recognise a judge's hand.
Or, although I didn't notice it when I was watching it, helmets, but the Hunter Squad leader is played by the great sea snake himself, Steve Toussaint. Now seriously, he's such an underrated gem of an actor, and if you haven't watched the interviews he did for House of the Dragon with his on-screen wife, the beautiful and funny Eve Best, then you're missing out on some really fun interviews, and seeing that their chemistry is not just on screen. From all accounts, this film was completely amended from the director's original vision, yet even with both Stallone's input and studio input, the director seemed to be able to keep some level of control. An example being refusing the studio's request to film in the US because he wanted to film it in the UK based on where Dredd had come from. You can see as well that this film was likely to lead into sequels. As mentioned earlier, the script is a bit bloated, and they did try and include so many storylines from so many years of comic history into this. Whether it's the Rico clone storyline, the inclusion of Judge Hershey, or mentioning the Robot Wars. Had they trimmed the fat, it could have been a lean actioner. Judge Dredd isn't high cinema, and its box office and critical response were harsh to say the least. With a production budget of between $85 and $90 million, it only recovered $113.5 million at the box office and was included in Gene Siskel's worst of 1995's movies. In the years since, Cena and others have actually praised Judge Dredd for its production designs and looks, and the fact that the film is actually peppered with links to the comics, whether it's a menacing, fully animatronic ABC warrior that has a disturbingly close voice to that of the Mysterons from Captain Scarlet.
Bodyguard.
Commander.
Rico.
Mission. This is the voice of the Mysterons.
Or the wonderful Angel family and the practical, makeup effects that are on there.
Eat recycled food. Recycled food. It's good for the environment and okay for you.
What can I say? It's cheesy, the dialogue can often be stilted, and it crams way too much into its runtime, but there's still things to enjoy about Judge Dredd. If you've never seen this film and consider Dredd the fantastic film that it is, do yourself a favour and watch this. I said it before and I'll say it again. Stallone's Judge Dredd walked, or maybe even crawled, so that Urban's Dredd could run the race. So there we have it, another worth the buy here on Bearded Budget Media. If you see this film out in the wild, and it is highly likely, net that sucker. Give it a watch and see what came before the magnificent Dredd 2012. I've been Lyrin Haddock. Catch you next time.
Hey! You want to be afraid of somebody? Be afraid of me!
Our breath, you're a menace. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
I knew you'd say that.
Hey, wait a second. What are you doing?
Grenade. Happy motoring.